Good evening. What's up? What's happening? And what's going down, everyone? This is Couch, and that's my man Howard. And on the panel today, we got my man Russ. Finally, we got my man Russ on the panel this week, along with my man Stu from last week. Good evening, gentlemen. How's everybody feeling?
Good.
All right. Good. That's it. Just good. Just okay. You guys just want to get straight into it. Is that it?
Rock and roll.
Talk to me. Tell me something.
It's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. You know what it is, and so let's just get right into it, because what we're seeing is them just normalizing this new behavior, and they're making it to be something that, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be. There's nothing wrong with this. So Howard, how dangerous is it when a vice president publicly declares absolute immunity for federal agents who kill civilians?
Well, I mean, it's extremely dangerous.
The precedent here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job.
He's giving them a political green light. That's really what he's doing. When a national leader, especially, well, let's just talk about who J.D. Vance is. J.D. Vance right now, he might as well have been Donald Trump. He's speaking for the president. Okay. What the Supreme Court is, the president has the power of the pardon. And so because he has that, and, no prosecutor is going to prosecute any of these cases federally that they know aren't going to go anywhere. And he just stood up on the podium and nationally just stated he and Stephen Miller and other people in the administration have gone on national television and made that proclamation that these people, ICE in particular, but any of these agents, Border Patrol and all that who are going in these cities have absolute immunity. And what it does is it destroys the public's trust, because by telling communities that their lives don't merit scrutiny, that it doesn't matter what happens to you.
Right.
There's no reason to trust anybody in federal law enforcement. And it just encourages reckless behavior, removing the expectation of consequence. I mean, if you, there is a deterrent. I mean, the theory is that laws act as a deterrent for aberrant behavior, for bad behavior. But if you take that away and you're encouraging, violence anyway, this is just going to be a chaotic situation, which what we have in Minneapolis right now.
Yeah. There's this. I want to not push back at Howard, but push back at this idea we keep focusing on the immunity, which is unsurmountable the way they have it set up. And we should instead be pursuing law enforcement accountability and visibility, which is something that they're doing in Oregon and Michigan. They're passing laws that prohibit any law enforcement officer, which includes federal agents, from wearing masks, failing to display clear identification, being able to then, whatever they're doing, be able to hold them accountable state by state. And states are going after this and saying we should have state-level civil rights acts, right? New York, Colorado have introduced bills that allow individuals to sue in state court for violations of the state constitution.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree that we need to be doing it. But Stu, when you look at what Howard was talking about, and you look at where we are right now, a lot of people just don't know what's going on. And a lot of people don't know the law. And Russ, you had a big problem with that as well, the way that everybody keeps allowing this narrative. Like a friend of mine, Yvette, is dealing with the whole thing with, they keep trying to say that this cop was ran over. They keep trying to push these lies. Guy went to the hospital. He's bruised. They keep pushing these lies, and it's been debunked. But how
Yeah,
can you? But how can we even begin to even get to the point where we can actually talk about the things that Stu's talking about? Because he's right. That stuff needs to be talked about. But if we don't have people understanding what actually happened, and if we keep allowing people to keep pushing this lie, how can we even get past this moment?
it's insane how we can be watching the actual event play out on video, and yet they will say, "Oh, he went to the hospital for internal injuries." Well, he didn't even drop his phone. How
Right.
hard could he have been hit by the vehicle? Because he was taking video of him killing the woman.
Right.
I think he wanted to celebrate it later.
Right.
He
Right.
shot her in the face 3 times, or well, in the head region. I don't think it's been released exactly where she was hit. So we like to be accurate with what we talk about.
Right.
The fourth estate, as the media, it's always been the one that's supposed to be ensure that our democracy is stable. And I've seen plenty of news sources repeating that lie. They have the video.
Right.
Like,
Right.
and here's the thing. Law enforcement in the United States has never worn masks. The
Right.
Fourth Amendment guarantees due process. They didn't want a country where a king could arrest you for whatever he wanted, make up charges. That's why we have to have warrants and put you in prison without any recourse. So
Right.
it's in our Constitution.
Right.
And, it's terrifying that we are drifting so far away from that document that has provided us with a democracy for a quarter of a millennia now.
Yeah, and that's why we got to go back to what Howard was talking about when he was writing that Substack. Basically, Howard, correct me if I'm wrong, but we need to ask ourselves, with JD Vance going up there, what happens when immunity is declared before an investigation? That's the thing that really bothers me. And when I was reading what you laid out in your Substack, my man, I kind of feel that that's what you were thinking too. It's like, no, go ahead and do your thing. You shoot, we'll take care of it later. It's like, we got your back. Do what you got to do. Is that the way? That's the way I perceive it, because that's what I kind of think.
I mean, if you had asked me, I hate to use this date because it's so infamous, but if you'd asked me January 6th, if you'd given me this hypothetical, and you told me that J.D. Vance was going to do if you were going to ask me if I thought an officer could do that and get away with it, I would have told you yes. I had the working assumption that the federal government, going back to what Russ was alluding to, because we have strayed so far from the rule of law, I just have this right now. I'm going off the assumption that no one's going to be held accountable here if it's working in the interests of the Trump administration for anything.
Right.
That on a federal level. Now, to go back to what Stu was talking about, what's going to be interesting to see is where when these more serious offenses happen, like this murder, will states challenge that? Will states go ahead and prosecute where the feds will not? Because they will, until the midterms at least, they will, use the other tools they've been using and start cutting federal funding for the states. I just know that that's his move. So
I want them to do that because they got the power to arrest the guy that killed her.
Right.
Why aren't they arresting her? They stated that they have jurisdiction to do so. State crime. I don't understand why aren't they doing this. Stu, what's your viewpoint on that? Because they need to get that done now.
Absolutely. We're pushing back on some level. I would ask Howard about this and what he thinks about other states creating a firewall against this. My own home state of New Jersey now has a law explicitly prohibiting local officials from recognizing the administrative warrants that ICE uses, the I-200s, the I-205s. that are, they try to use those to get into homes. They're not warrants. But now, instead of just everybody playing fair, being intellectually honest about what the rules are, now states are having to create new legislation to say, all right, fine, you're going to use an I-200, you use an I-205. No, that's not a warrant. Howard, do you think this is going to at some point gain more momentum?
I mean, yeah, I think it'll be. I mean, it'll be like the redistricting thing. I mean, if states start when they say, it's a strategy we could use, I think they will start using this strategy. Okay.
Right.
However, this is where the rubber meets the road. It's going to, it'll slow them down. But one of these days, I predict that it's going to come to loggerheads. I mean, they're going to be, they're going to go to New Jersey and they're going to bust the door down with their federal warrant and not the other warrants, the other paperwork that your state has said by their
again, Bo, there's some video of them doing that in some other states right now. Doing in Minnesota, going up in people's houses. They are emboldened right now, big time, and it's insane.
But in some of those states, they haven't gone that second step and penned the laws or codified the fact that you have to go through these procedures in this particular state in order to do what you want to do. I'm just saying that I think that I don't put it past. They don't care about law, and I don't think they care about state law that much either. And then it's going to have to be adjudicated by the Supreme Court, which,
they're able to control the narrative on what policy and what comes out in terms of what they do next with policy, because they stick to the lie. And you have media just enabling that lie. You know how you have animals that like test the perimeter, you see how close they can get, before they can really come in and attack. They're doing that with every press conference. They're taking every single thing a step further and just being emboldened with saying, we're going to do what the fuck we want to do because the GOP isn't going to get this guy out of office. They know that we know they're lying. All this lying, and the whole thing just states the whole system of truth has just become optional with all of this. So when you got J.D. Vance up there doing that, Howard, when you're talking about what can we believe in? Can you break down a little bit more on that from that Substack, man? Because I don't think people see. I think right there you should have told everybody we're here. Right now, everybody we're.
I didn't want to say. I don't. That wasn't that we were talking about the immunity thing, and I agree with Stu. We focus on that too much. That wasn't the most important thing J.D. Vance said in that press conference.
Right.
The most important thing he said is that they're trying to form an assistant district, U.S. attorney that's going to run out of the White House, that's going to be able to charge people with fraud. That's his favorite charge.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to get charged. Everyone who dissents is going to get
charged with fraud, and that's what they're doing right now with Powell.
They're going to get investigated and charged with fraud. This is what authoritarians do. This is what kings do. You're good. When they don't like you, they put you in the tower long enough till people forget about you, then they execute you. That's what they do. And so I'm not saying they're going to start killing people for fraud, but that was the thing that disturbed. Russ is like, who knows? I don't know, but that was the thing that disturbed me the most about that press conference. I know, and I talked about that a little bit in that Substack too. I couldn't believe that didn't get more. I haven't heard much about. It was alarming to me.
What about
that
you?
They
Russ?
wanted to run part of the Department of Justice out of the White House.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much fraud.
That's the Gestapo, man. That is the Gestapo. It's just like you said, them using fraud would be like just using contempt in court by the judge. Just do it because even if the judge just didn't like the motherfucker, they might do contempt, but it gets the job done at that particular time. But you're right. They're going to use that one thing and use that as a blanket to go against everybody. And doing this with Powell is pretty big. You know, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Russ, but what are your thoughts on that, my man? I know you have some things on that you want to say.
Well, I think the scariest thing for me is the assertion of immunity for law enforcement officers for their crimes. This was cold-blooded murder. Hey, I've watched it dozens of times already, and even at the regular speed where it looks scarier, he's still nowhere near the vehicle and holding his phone. And when they're wearing masks, it's an intimidation factor. But this declaration of immunity, and I think that they're trying to tie it to the supremacy clause of the federal government. And all that the supremacy clause says is that anything that is enumerated in the Constitution belongs to the federal government. And then the 10th Amendment says everything else belongs to the state. Now, federal crimes and state crimes are separate. You can be prosecuted at both levels, and it isn't even double jeopardy. So the state can prosecute this cold-blooded killer. They can do it, and they can put him in prison, and I hope he spends a very long rest of his life with a big fella named Bubba. 10 by 10
but
size.
Bubba is like me. He's asking, why aren't they even doing it? This is the part that bothers me. Right,
yeah, well, I think they're taking their time and they're being steady. I mean, Minnesota's is slightly blue. They're not, hardcore blue like California is, but they're slightly blue, and I think they're just being very diligent in how they approach this because they know there's going to be retribution. Because when doesn't Trump do retribution with the federal government? Taking away funding for the daycare centers instantly, and they were already prosecuting the corruption in that case. So It's really about pushing his will and a fascist regime.
Outside of that, I want to go back to the fact that the media, with what J.D. Vance said, and your perspective on it, Russ, is solid as well, because the thing about immunity is crazy. But the door-to-door aspect, see, this is where I'm having a big issue. I don't want the media doing these damn polls anymore, asking for people's opinions. I want them right now. They need to educate everybody on how bad this is, because he's saying go door to door. They set up that department. They can come to my neighborhood, and just go up, said, we're searching for levels of fraud and access where we need to search your premises for information pertaining to these crimes. Why doesn't legacy media immediately explain to people what ICE legally can and cannot do? Don't you think that would be helpful? If they just said, look, people, this is what they can and can't do. Boom. And they need to re-emphasize that each week, every night. What do you think, Stu?
Ain't no money in it. That's it. That's it. So there are 1,300 local news sites that are actually part of a coordinated network funded by conservative groups. It's flooded, right? The media barons here target news deserts. Think about 1,300 conservative local news sites. And when you look at traditional newspapers, there's only about 1,200 left. So 108%, right? Plus, at least half of those regular traditional daily newspapers are owned by GOP fundraisers, by people who actively contribute.
Howard, you agree with that, man?
Oh yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, that's why. I mean, there's no money in it, and also the people. It doesn't forward the interests of the corporate entities that own most of these stations and publications.
Right.
Everything's been consolidated.
Right.
So
Right. Right. Right.
there is there are very few independent news sources that have wide distribution. You can do,
Right.
I mean, there are blogs on the internet, Substack, and all of that, but
Hmm.
you know,
But that ain't what everybody's seeing, and that's the problem that we have right now. It's like you said, you got they. Somebody was talking about, does this neutrality of the media becomes complicity? I don't see neutrality. I see that everything that the media puts out is for the benefit of the narrative of the GOP. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, because you just said, Stu, ain't no money in that.
All the money is in kissing Trump's ass. That's where the dollars are. The old folks who want to support Trump, who really have that authoritarian personality, they love the local paper. That's where the clicks are.
So the origin of the end of our media being free and independent was Watergate. After the toppling of Nixon, the billionaires in this country realized there were two things stopping them from having fascist power. It was a free and independent media, and they bought it all up. And they even own MSNB, whatever they want to call themselves now.
Yeah.
And they attacked the public education system, including college, because a well-educated populace that understood civics was the other factor. So they have completely attacked our public education system and made college so expensive the average American can't go. And that's how you completely transform a democracy into a fascist oligarchy.
That right there, man, is an entire show by itself. So
Yeah.
but I want to now go into what I find to be the crux of it all, because with Venezuela, we already know that this is all about the oil. Now, what is funny right now is this takeover is basically becoming a laughingstock, because he was told that oil is unrefinable. The meeting itself, this is the one that called the meeting that had me crying.
Yeah.
He asked the Halliburton oil executive, well, when did you guys leave Venezuela? 2019, because of your sanctions. This shit has been a joke. And then he was told that the place is uninvestable. Howard,
Yep.
this you said it. You said it was about the oil. You said it a long time ago.
Yeah, no.
You said they're going to try to happen. Yeah.
And that was, look, the thing about Trump is that people can play him short term, but then they end up taking the fall. And Marco Rubio played Trump on this one, I believe. He put the carrot out there. The oil was the carrot.
Okay.
Now we don't like Maduro. I mean, yeah, they've been trying to,
Yeah.
and famously reported about the bounty we had on him. I mean, that Joe Biden put on him. So no one liked him anyway.
Right.
As far as the corporate powers up here. But I think that now that all the Trump is unleashed, and Marco Rubio, is trying to be the new hero of Cuba. He decided, I think he put the bug in Trump's ear about this oil. We'll set them up. We'll get this oil, knowing that he was going to depose Maduro. Right. And I think he was thinking that once we do that we could go in there and install some democracy, and then Cuba will get free and all that. But he doesn't understand who he's working for. He's working for the devil. And Trump is like, okay, great. I don't care about Cuba. Fuck you. He's like, I don't care about that shit, Marco. We're going to get this oil, and we're going to call all these oil. That's Trump's head. He's like, I got all these oil executives, and I'm explaining all this shit to him. And then when this thing blows up, whose fault it's going to be? Marco's.
Right.
Ain't Trump's fault.
So you think he's going to blame the oil? Because look, when you hear these, executives, and they're talking about, first of all, they're talking about it's a heavy crude. And it's a very heavy crude. And in China, they have it set up where they can refine it in China, but they can only take so much at a time. And so when the Exxon executive told that the crude is not refinable based on the way it's set up now, saying that they would have to put so much money in there. I think Stu, you said the cost like 180 billion before to invest that, but nobody's going to want to invest into that when this dude can send out some crazy ass tweet that caused the whole market to collapse or something change in their government. This guy is insane. He's showing he's a poor businessman over and over and over again. This is the type of shit, Stu, that I never could understand. How people just can't see this shit.
I mean, they can see it. They love it, right? I talk endlessly. I write about boring to death. I talk about authoritarian personality. These people love it, right? And we can talk about the stock market, right? The markets love Trump. They love the volatility. They love the unpredictability because they know it's always short term. They can buy on the dip. He makes them way so much money. The Dow dipped in the spring, but we're now looking at at least for the Dow, we're looking at a net gain of at least 5,700 points, 13% on your money, right? Aerospace, defense stocks, tremendous gains, right? RTX is up 118 billion, right? GE Aerospace is on the Dow is up 94%. They love
but let's get back to Venezuela. See, look, this is what you just said is why the executive at Exxon said it's crazy because you're right. People can buy and, they can make money. The guys that are hustling every day can make money. But if you're an oil company, you can't depend on that volatility when you're looking at putting a $180 billion investment that you're not going to see any type of returns until at least 10 years. But if you got this dude doing it, 10 years may turn into 20. That's one of the things that people aren't getting. Russell, you wanted to say something about that?
First of all, Venezuela has really high poverty rates. So it's unstable because of the high, I think it was 80%. I don't remember where my notes are, but it's huge. So why would they want to invest $180 billion to refine heavy crude oil in a country where the average person is so poor they can barely afford to survive? It's just inherent instability. And if there's one thing conservatives are not good at, it's getting rid of instability or improving an economy. It's never happened. So that's dangerous all by itself. And Maduro was a bad guy. I mean, nobody disagrees with that. But every time conservatives initiate the process of regime change, whether it was Operation Ajax in 1953 in Iran, which toppled a very friendly government because they nationalized their oil industry, or Venezuela, which was 1976 when they nationalized it and started using that money to help their people. They topple the regimes and they want it for the oil companies. And it just shows you how connected the Republican Party is to big oil. It's just an irrevocable link.
They are doing better. Chevron is up almost 10% over the past 30 days, right? Let's not kid ourselves. This is absolutely about the money. It's shameful and terrible. I'm not saying I would want things to be different. 100%. I would like to eliminate poverty in this country, right? I am telling you, there's no money in it, and this crazy stuff that Trump is doing. Chevron's up 10%. ExxonMobil is up 7% right now. Come on.
Well, Trump has made it very clear that he is in the pocket of oil. But I don't know, Stu, if I think that the action of him going down to Venezuela, then calling the oil executives in for this deposing this guy and then calling the oil executives in for a meeting. That's a demonstration of his backing of oil. I would invest in oil based on that meeting and him trying to, obviously doing these things for them. But I disagree with even trying to develop, for the reasons Russ just stated, what's happening in Venezuela. I don't think their stock price is up because of that. Mm-hmm. I think it's up because it's just obvious that the White House is backing their industry.
I think the biggest factor here is Donald Trump thinks he's in charge, and he's not. The oil companies own him.
Yeah,
he does what they tell him to do, not the other way around. So him telling them, you're going to build these plants in Venezuela, and they're like, no, we aren't.
So basically, with all this chaos, the occupant is benefiting from everybody with all this chaos. Yeah. When you say so?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he doesn't look like he's doing poorly.
He doesn't do anything that doesn't benefit him financially. Yeah. That's his only operative mode.
And the whole world knows it.
Yep. If Charles Manson was a billionaire, Donald Trump would have pardoned him.
Now, we're talking about money now. Let's get to Powell. So, Stu, I just want to ask you from the get-go, when you heard about this, him doing this, what was your immediate thoughts on him putting this investigation into Powell?
So, I always think about LBJ, right? So every Fed chair at some point has done something where the president has had a problem and the president has wanted short-term gain in the polls, an election coming up, wanting the Fed chair to do something different, right? LBJ famously grabbed his Fed chair, forget his name, but grabbed the Fed chair and physically put him up against the wall, saying, you got to cut interest rates. So that was my first thought. Normally, rationality holds, and that's the extent of it, right? You yell, you scream, maybe you go to the newspapers, you bitch about it. But the law is the law. The Fed should be sacrosanct. So this is insane. And then on top of that, the presidents are always wrong. Fed chairs are right. When we look at the past 50 years, Fed chairs have been right 8 out of 10 times when it came to interest rates. Presidents over the past 50 years, 1 out of 10 times that they've had success. Who are you going to listen to?
Who's that one?
I don't remember. I want to say that it was Nixon for one moment.
Okay.
And Nixon had more wrong than right. And eventually that led to, Nixon led to stagflation anyway. LBJ led to inflation. Nixon led to stagflation.
Well, I mean, it wasn't unexpected that he was going to do something to mess with Powell. He wants him out of there. So if he can somehow, try to force him out because of this, he'll try to do that. I also think this is somewhat of a warning for the people, whoever would fill the seat that Powell, would leave. That if or it's really just a warning to anybody. He likes doing these big demonstrative things and an investigation. That's why this fraud department bothers me.
Right.
An investigation. I don't, look, Powell is, I don't even have to do the investigation. I mean, Powell might have like some, really disgusting kink or something. I'm not saying he's such a great guy, but I'm just saying as far as him being guilty of fraud, I know that this is the assumption I'm going to make. The chairman of the Federal Reserve, if he's going to commit a financial crime, it's not going to be embezzling on a building project. That's the crime I commit.
Right.
Okay,
right.
That's
right.
the crime.
Right.
That's the crime. That somebody thinks up while they're like, playing poker and getting drunk. Saying,
Right.
God, I think I can skim off the top.
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to do that. So it's just stupid.
his a bit a little bit more complex, and it would take somebody to actually be doing some type of audit to even
Yeah.
figure out. So Russ, what happens, Russ, when monetary policy becomes political revenge?
That is the perfect lead into what I wanted to say. So the Federal Reserve has a few jobs that they do for the economy, but the primary one is making sure banks are profitable and stable. Banks were never stable before
Stop right
FDR.
there. Stable. That right there is the thing that I think we all need to pay attention to right now, because that dude, the guy that bankruptcy 6 times, he ain't stable. So sorry to interrupt you, Russ. Continue on, my man.
That's okay.
So yeah,
Yeah, so stability of the banking system, it's inherently important for a major economy.
yeah.
And so Trump kind of was created as a monster financially by Powell. Powell, during his first administration, was trying to prop up his administration by lowering interest rates dramatically to keep the economy humming despite the economic downturn, especially during COVID. And he infused $7 trillion into the stock market. Under the Biden administration, he raised interest rates trying to slow the economy down, and it still created 16.2 million jobs in 4 years. And he took all 7 trillion out of the stock market trying to collapse it and failed. So he created his own monster by propping him up. And now Trump is expecting him to lower interest rates again and infuse money into the stock market again to make Trump look good. And Powell's going, no, I'm not going to do it. So somehow Powell grew a pair and is refusing to just capitulate again, which is a good sign. But the Federal Reserve has, and the federal chair has rarely been on the side of Democratic presidents. And it's just the way it goes. But liberal economic policies are so successful that they overcome that interference.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand, why haven't they tried that approach again? So you're basically saying now they did it for him before. What is making him hesitant about doing it now for him in a particular way that would benefit him?
I think there's less stability in this administration. The last one had some semi-rational people in it. But this one, it just looks like a big land grab. Like, they want Greenland, they want Cuba, they're trying to take countries by force or coercion.
Yeah.
And I think it's sounding alarm bells because, again, when you're conquering people, there's no stability, and that's going to hurt the financial mechanisms of our country with that instability eventually. So I think that might be it, that he sees Venezuela, talk about Greenland, talk about this and that, and it's just too much instability for the financial institutions who really, they only have a margin of about 1%. They only hold 1% of their funds on hand. So if 3% of their the people who have accounts want their money, the bank collapses.
Yeah.
That's what caused the economic collapse of the Great Depression. And there was a bank closing every day. And when a bank closes, the money supply shrinks every single bank that closes. So it triggers a downward spiral that you can't come out of. That's why FDR just had his bank holiday. He sent people to every bank, and he said, we're going to inspect their books. They would get there, they'd look at them for a second, and they go, okay, you're open. They just wanted to create confidence by the public. And that's how he did it. And then FDIC and FSLIC to protect a certain portion of your wealth from a bank collapse. And that's the only reason we have bank stability today. It was FDR.
Don't you think that one of the biggest differences between the first Trump administration and this one, as far as Powell's concerned, is that Trump started, we had this, what do you call it? Liberation Day. And then he threw all those tariffs that were just arbitrary numbers, and they were just crazy. And, that did, the projected inflation that was going to create, I think Powell might have been more flexible had Trump not thrown that monkey wrench of all those tariffs in the mix, because that really puts things in haywire. Just was crazy. I mean, Trump did tariff in his first term, but nothing like this one.
Is there any way, anything that you've seen recently that shows that maybe people are starting to get it? What about Joe Rogan? You saw what he's been saying lately. Do you think Joe Rogan is finally getting it?
I don't know if Joe Rogan's ever going to get it, but the people themselves are, because they can say that prices are down, but you go to the store, they aren't. You can say the economy's booming, but there are, in my opinion or estimation, 4 million people who have lost their jobs this year.
Yeah.
1.9 million were laid off in the last year. Mm-hmm. And all of those when you cut federal workers who make $75,000 to $100,000 a year, those communities are suffering. It's an economic multiplier in reverse. When you take money away from the economies, it creates job loss everywhere else. Yeah. If you create jobs or increase wages at the bottom, it always stimulates. That's why when you raise minimum wage in a city or state, their unemployment rate drops by 25% over a 6-month span. Every time. You can look at it historically every time.
But so you can't get these numbers across to people. You can see those numbers right there, Russ, those numbers, they're real. See, you are a smart guy. You pay attention to data. Howard, you, Stu as well. But see, all of that information that we just presented, we have to maybe put this in a cartoon format and say some ignorant shit with it as well to get people to realize that when you have a party that's looking to do things, all of that stuff benefits. And those are policies that are presented by the Dems, things that help stimulate our economy. But what are we fighting? We're fighting the conservative. We're fighting legacy media that will allow the narrative, the narrative that is false, that even though we got the existence of true data out there, they let those false narratives go, and this information never gets out to anybody. And that's what we're constantly fighting. So, I mean, Russ, that's great. But the thing is this, we gotta do more outside of this to try to get people to see those numbers. What were you going to say?
Well, my biggest thing is you can only hide that kind of job loss by lying about it for so long before the economy is in a downward spiral it cannot come out of. And they do not understand economics well enough to employ Keynesian economic policies, which is the only way to fix it.
And when's the last time we've seen a jobs report?
It's been a while.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah. And the last 2 times, lost homegirl, the sister lost her job just by posting the damn numbers that came in. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. So where
the Politburo is pleased.
Would you say that? What'd you say?
The Politburo is pleased.
Yeah. Man, the disparate connection, the distance between the poor and the wealthy. 875,000 more Americans got pushed into poverty this past year. And at the same time, if you just look at billionaires, American billionaires, they went up from 6.7 trillion in value to 8.1 trillion in value, which is 21% increase profit for billionaires.
That is a huge shift in wealth. That is a huge shift in wealth. Yeah, that's 1.5 trillion right there. Wow, that's insane. Look, before we finish out tonight, Stu, is there something that you would like to close with, that you would like to give everybody your viewpoint on, your hot take? You got something for the people?
I mean, I'm going to keep coming back to poverty. Something that is a choice that we make. It's 3%. If you shifted 3% of the federal budget, you could eliminate poverty in children. And it would just be 3%. And then that would, again, Keynesian economics, this idea of trickle up economics, which anybody worth their salt will tell you would work. It is more than affordable. It's a serious fix. You do it once with the big shift in the money, and then it's easier to maintain, and the rest of the economy suddenly blooms because there's more money being spent on the street. And instead, 875,000 Americans are now went from barely hanging in there to poverty. And somehow that's okay with people.
Yeah, it shouldn't be okay. And it's a trip. You're right about when people are making money. Give an example with me driving Uber. I can be in Springfield, Virginia in the afternoon between 3 and 4 o'clock. And in that hour's time, I have maybe 8 rides just going back and forth. And these are people that are working, and these are my best customers. But during that particular moment, during the summer and all that, there was a lot of people that were, doing well during that time in Springfield. So when you talk about, that shift in poverty, to even get that across to people, you're fighting people saying that's socialism, you're fighting Fox News, you're fighting all that, and then you're fighting the idiots who have these podcast platforms that are just reinforcing that. So, yeah, we got to keep pushing it out there, but yeah, hopefully people will start seeing that. So, Russ, you got anything?
First of all, absolute pleasure working with you guys tonight. I have enjoyed every single minute of it. I would say the biggest thing that people need to look at is who creates the jobs. Since January of 1989, George Herbert Walker Bush's first year in office, Republicans have held the White House for 17 years now. And in that 17 years, they have lost about 3 to 4 million jobs, depending on evidence. In the same span, Democrats have held the White House for 20 years and created 52 million net jobs. There is no difference, but the media isn't letting you know.
Yeah, I mean that right there. That's what those are the numbers. That particular number right there is the one that just infuriates me when people try to say the Republicans are better. I say you guys are listening to the people who basically own the media companies. The billionaires. You're listening to your boss say this over and over again when it's just not true. And
it's nonsense.
And those lies are the things that, once again, media being complicit in all this, just saying it over and over and over again and not pushing back. So, yeah, man, that right there, 50 million jobs. That tells you all you need to know right now. Look at where we're at right now. We don't even know the jobs report. But we do know that people are losing jobs, and we do know that the unemployment rate has risen. So we got an idea as to why
Lincoln, Nebraska lost a third of their jobs this year just because of one Tyson plant shutting down. 1/3 of that whole community lost their jobs.
That's insane. And those are the people who fucked around and found out. Yeah.
Like 86% Trump in that town.
Yeah. Idiots. See, that's where your racism gets you. You're so racist that you just ignore the facts, but you're going to get after these black folks, get after this. What's this? Owning the libs? That's like the dumbest crap ever. And now look at where they're at.
This has been the best found out stage I've ever witnessed in my entire 58 years in existence.
Yeah.
And Howard, what about you, my man? What you got for us?
Oh, I just echo what Stu and Russ have said, and it's been a pleasure work with you guys tonight. And I just tell people just unplug from the matrix, man. You look just what you are experiencing as an individual is actually happening. What you're seeing around you is actually happening. When this is happening. It's not what's happening on Instagram and on your phone. And it's easy to I think project reality onto what you see on media. I don't want to say social media, but on the phone and on the internet and all this stuff. But what's really happening is you're going through drive-through buying $9 hamburgers. That's what's happening. Okay, I mean, I'm just saying. You're
And $2
you
for
go,
extra cheese.
you're absolutely right. You're going out to dinner, just you and someone else, and your tab with a tip is $150, and you're not at a good, you're at an average restaurant.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I mean, these all of this stuff is happening, and you got to ask yourself, just for those people who aren't paying attention, who voted for Trump maybe or someone else, just ask yourself if this is what you're voting for. That's all.
Yeah.
I just want you to take a breath, look around, pay attention, and realize that you're not alone. The shit you're going through and the bullshit you're seeing around you is happening to everybody else, and we all have to bound together and change this thing somehow. That's all.
And pay attention to which group it is that actually is expressing concern for you. Yeah, we might laugh about the found out stage, but who is really fighting to help you?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, fellas. Before we close, I would like to say a couple of things. The biggest thing that I really want people to think about as we move forward, as we continue in this fight, is that non-people of color, my white friends, if you have a situation where a brother is telling you something that is racist or inappropriate, sometimes it is best to not even try to say, no, it isn't, I don't get it, whatever. Sometimes it's best to say, okay, digest it, listen, shut up, and think on it. Because now we're at a point now where there are things that are coming out to people. And after seeing what happened with Renee Nicole Good, her being killed, when a black man tells you that this is what we are always afraid of, don't say anything like, well, that was different. Well, what was that situation? Please don't do that. In order for us to continue to grow together and progress and get beyond this madness, we have got to take time now to be more open to listening and learning from others who have been through things that you haven't been through, and just taking the time to just listen to them. Don't try to dispute what they say. Don't try to push it aside. Just listen. Because believe it or not, that listening will help you learn as you become more familiar with that person and as you come across other situations that are similar to what they were trying to break down. Anyway, this is our show for this week, everybody. That's my man Howard, and I want to thank my man Stu and my man Russ for being on the show tonight. Thank you, everybody. Talk to you soon. COUCHAT. Peace.